Elvis Presley's final days were a far cry from his heyday, swaggering around on stage in front of adoring fans as a young man, singing his chart-topping hits. Overweight, chronically constipated and refusing to bathe for a whole year, he was covered in sores and cared for by a live-in nurse. He had gained 3.5 stone in the last few months alone after barricading himself in his bedroom and gorging on platters of cheeseburgers while his health deteriorated, ballooning to 25 stone. The singer, who would have turned 87 on Saturday, was also on a cocktail of drugs and had been prescribed almost 9,000 pills, vials and injections in the 7 months before his death. He suffered from glaucoma, hypertension, liver damage, and an enlarged colon, all of which were magnified and possibly caused by drug abuse. Get the news you want straight to your inbox. Sign up for a Mirror newsletter here. Had pulled out of shows amid claims he was unintelligible due to the huge number of prescription pills he was taking every day, and because he was struggling to get out of bed. His cousin Billy Smith recalled how he would sit in his room and chat for hours, sometimes recounting his favorite Monty Python sketches and telling stories from his past, but more often he was gripped by paranoid obsessions. His nurse, Letitia Henley, wrote in her book, he was miserable. He was depressed about aging and not having a woman he loved. He missed Priscilla. His friends kept tempting him with pretty 17- and 18-year-old girls, but he had nothing in common with them. His very last day alive was a busy one. He headed to the dentist in the night in search for prescription pills, played racquetball with Billy at 4 a.m., and also enjoyed an impromptu piano session singing his favorite songs. Hours later, Elvis was found face down on the floor of his bathroom, aged just 42. It was his girlfriend Ginger Alden who found the rock and roll star's body with his pajama bottoms around his ankles and his bottom in the air as if he had fallen forward whilst seated on the toilet. Of the distressing scene, Ginger, who was just 21 at the time, wrote in her memoir, his arms lay on the ground, close to his sides, palms facing upward. It was clear that, from the moment he landed on the floor, Elvis hadn't moved. I gently turned his face toward me. A hint of air expelled from his nose. The tip of his tongue was clenched between his teeth and his face was blotchy. I gently raised one eyelid. His eye was staring straight ahead and blood red. An autopsy was carried out that same day, but the report was immediately sealed for 50 years by the family, sparking a slew of speculation as to what killed him. Elvis' heart had swollen to almost twice its normal size and it emerged he was in the advanced stages of cardiovascular disease. Despite never having smoked, his lungs were riddled with emphysema, which would have made it almost impossible for him to breathe. His bowel contained the most gruesome discovery of all. It was almost twice the length it should have been and was filled with stool at least 4 months old. Dan Warlick, chief investigator for the Tennessee Office of the State Chief Medical Examiner, attended the autopsy and fueled the popular theory that Elvis died while straining to go to the toilet. He once said, Presley's chronic constipation, the result of years of prescription drug abuse and high-fat, high-cholesterol gorging, brought on what's known as Valsalva's maneuver. Put simply, the strain of attempting to defecate compressed the singer's abdominal aorta, shutting down his heart. Others claimed he had died from a drug overdose, but when the investigation was reopened in 1994, coroner Joseph Davis disagreed. He explained, The position of Elvis Presley's body was such that he was about to sit down on the commode when the seizure occurred. He pitched forward onto the carpet, his rear in the air, and was dead by the time he hit the floor. If it had been a drug overdose, Elvis would have slipped into an increasing state of slumber. He would have pulled up his pajama bottoms and crawled to the door to seek help. It takes hours to die from drugs. 3 years after Elvis' death, Dr. George Nichopoulos, the singer's Memphis physician, had his medical license suspended by the state of Tennessee for 3 months for indiscriminately prescribing controlled substances. It emerged that in the last 20 months of Elvis' life, he was prescribed more than 12,000 pills and carried 3 suitcases of drugs around with him, though Dr. Nick claims these were meant for use by the star's entire team. His supply of drugs included uppers, downers and painkillers so strong they were usually given to patients in the end stages of cancer. While arguing that he prescribed the pills to stop the musician turning to street drugs, the doctor later admitted Elvis was in denial about his addiction. Elvis' problem was that he didn't see the wrong in it. He felt that by getting it from a doctor, he wasn't the common everyday junkie getting something off the street, he said. In 1981, Dr. Nick was charged with 11 counts of overprescribing drugs, but acquitted. However, he lost his medical license permanently in 1995. There's another theory as to what killed Elvis, and it began 10 years before he actually died. Prominent California physician Forrest Tennant reviewed the autopsy report while defending Elvis' doctor, and he believes a head injury Elvis suffered in 1967 triggered a progressive autoimmune inflammatory disorder. In his opinion, as shared in a 2013 medical paper, when Elvis tripped over a television cord and knocked himself out on the bathtub, the injury was so severe that it caused brain tissue to dislodge and seep into his blood circulation. There, the body identified the matter as foreign and produced antibodies to destroy it, triggering hypogammaglobulinemia, a disorder of the body's immune system. At the time, little was understood about autoimmune conditions, but these days they are known to cause most of the symptoms Elvis displayed, from chronic pain, irrational behavior, obesity and enlarged and diseased organs like hearts and bowels. And in 2016 Gary Rogers, a retired homicide detective and forensic coroner, told the Huffington Post that with those findings in mind, he would have attributed Elvis' death to a heart attack caused by heart disease and drug use caused by an autoimmune disease which was sparked by a brain injury. He said, "I'd have to classify Elvis's death as an accident. There's no one to blame, certainly not Elvis. He was a severely injured and ill man. There's no specific negligence on anyone's part and definitely no cover-up or conspiracy of a criminal act." If Dr. Forrest Torrent is right, there simply wasn't a proper understanding back then in determining what really killed the king of rock and roll. Do you have a story to share? Email webfeatures@trinitymirror.com. The Samaritans is available 24/7 if you need to talk. You can contact them for free by calling 116-123, email joe@samaritans. Or head to the website to find your nearest branch. You matter.